So I'm going to discuss Brother Lawrence and the practice of patience. This was a collection of writings of Brother Lawrence and was published in 1692 by his friend Beaufort after his death so his legacy could be remembered. Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection was born in a time of war during the 30-Year War in 1611. This was Europe's deadliest war, with the Roman Catholics at war with the Protestants. 500,000 soldiers and 8 million civilians were killed in this war. As well, at this time, the plague had started, killing another 2 million more people. This was also a time of 5 decades of global climate change. Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection was born as Nicholas Herman. His parents were Dominic and Louise Herman, and was an uneducated kid and was part of the third lower class. He was a small man with the average height of a soldier at the time, being 5 foot 3 inches. At the age of 18, he had a spiritual experience that he told to his friend about. Later in life, about one winter night, there was a tree that he was looking at. It was barren and leafless. It hit him that the leaves would reappear green with flowers and fruit. This lifted him up suddenly to God. He received a profound awareness of God's kindness and power that never left his soul. At the age of 19, he joined the military to fight the 30-Year War. While in the army, he was captured and made a prisoner of war by the Germans because they thought he was a spy. While he was in the army, he injured his leg, and it was never healed, which will be relevant later in his life. Brother Lawrence then got out of the military when he was 21 to become a footman for work. He never thought highly of himself and would call himself a clumsy oaf, which translates to uneducated, unsophisticated, coarse, and rough. He was not a noble born and had anxiety. So do we all. He had an untamed mind and was estranged from God. Brother Lawrence had no shoes, which would also be relevant later in his life. His uncle became a mentor to him, which led him going into the church. He had a 2-year test period before becoming a lay brother in the OCD, which was founded by Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross, who we have read about earlier in the semester. The OCD, as it is known, was an enclosed monastery where you followed a contemplative life. Their first chapel was dedicated to the Virgin Mary, and Teresa of Avila was a role model to Brother Lawrence, and he based a lot of his writings off of her. At the age of 26, he got his name Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection, where he spent 50 years in the monastery. He spent 15 of those years as a head cook from the ages of 31 to 46. He disliked kitchen work, but he did it anyways because he was a humble friar. After he got a large ulcer in his leg due to the injury he got in the war, he was no longer able to walk. The monastery moved him to be a sandal repairer, hence why I said be relevant later, so he wouldn't have to stand for work anymore. During this time in the monastery, we know about 16 of his surviving letters, which make up the book that we have now, where he teaches the practice of patience, where your heart must be emptying of all things because God wants to enjoy it completely. We learn in an earlier note in the book about God's love and how his love is like a connection between a mother and her breastfeeding child. The unconditional love between a mother and a kid. Brother Lawrence died February 12th of 1691, and this is the writings that we have of him today. And it's all yours, Michael.